Sculpting is all about manipulating vertices, edges, and faces into the shape that you want. And the Edit Form command is what you'll be doing most of these manipulations with. A good way to think about the command is as a combination of the Move, Rotate, and Scale commands from Model Space, just applied to any entity on the body you'd like to work with. In this lesson, I'll use the Edit Form command to turn the rectangular T-spline body you see here into a simple ergonomic handle. Since the Edit Form command is one of the most used commands in Sculpt, it can be found in a variety of places. You can access it from the top bar as the icon above the Modify dropdown, as the first option in the Modify dropdown, from the right-click menu as the first option in the Modify flyout, as the top right option in the Marking menu, or by using the right-click gesture diagonally up and right. Once enabled, the Edit Form dialog box appears, with the T-spline entity selection box enabled. By default, you can select any vertex, edge, or face, but if you want to restrict your selection option to only one of those, you can do so from the Selection Filter option in the dialog box. This can be useful when working in small spaces, or on bodies with a high face count, but for this lesson, I'll leave it set to All. To make the first selection, I'll simply click one of the front faces of the body, then hold down Ctrl so I can select more faces, and click the other 3 front faces. A manipulator appears on the entities that you can use to rotate the selected entities, translate them along an axis or a plane, or scale them in any direction. If you find this manipulator feels cluttered, you can change it by switching the Transform mode to display only on the Translation, Rotation, or Scale options from either the dialog box or with the Alt hotkeys that display when you hover the options. I'll leave it set to Multi for now, and I next want to shrink the front faces I've selected to make the model more curvature continuous on this end. I'll use the Scale handle on the manipulator to shrink the front. But notice that shrinking these faces also affects the rest of the body. Since I'm just trying to make the model more curvature continuous, I can't simply edit the form. I actually need to extrude it inward. Instead of enabling the Extrude command to do this, however, I'll undo the edit, hold down the Alt key, and drag the Scale handle once again. Rather than scaling down the faces again, however, the command added geometry to complete the scale. By holding down the Alt key while performing an edit, you can quickly extrude entities without ever leaving the Edit Form command. I'll drag until the scale is around 0.5, and since it extruded instead of simply editing, the rectangular shape is maintained. I'll click OK, and to show the advantage of this cap, I'll go to the browser and show a curvature map analysis I set up earlier. I'll right-click on it in the browser, select Edit, and reduce the minimum limit in the dialog box until only a thin band of red appears around the front face. This band represents the curvature of the body, and when I rotate to look at the back of the body, you can see the side without additional geometry doesn't have that smooth transition. I'll click Cancel, hide the analysis, and re-enable the Edit Form command to shape the handle. I'll start by selecting all the bottom faces of the body, including the 2 small faces on the front, and scaling them down to around 0.2. The command stays active, even after an edit, so I'll click away to deselect the faces. The next step is to pull the front down and out a bit, so I'll select the bottom front edge. But before I make the edit, I want to quickly cover the Coordinate Space options. The coordinate space defines what type of axis is used for manipulation. So when I switch to View Space, you can see that the manipulator updates to reflect the change. In this space, all edits will be made normal to the camera. So as I move the camera, notice that the manipulator also adjusts to follow. This is a good option for making edits that the other spaces won't allow, but you probably won't find yourself using it often. The local coordinate space, however, will set the axis normal to the selected entities and can be very useful for manipulating compound curves. You'll usually work in world space, however, so I'll switch back to it and pull the front out about 10 millimeters and down 20 millimeters. To make the finger indents on the handle, I'll select 3 of the bottom edges, and pull them up around 10 millimeters. For the final adjustment, I'll select the second inside edge and pull it down around 5 millimeters. The handle is now finished. But before I close the command, I'll go over the rest of the options in the dialog box. The Object Snap checkbox allows you to snap to the closest geometry and works well if you're trying to sculpt around mesh data. Soft Modification allows you to change the area of influence your modifications will have on the rest of the model, and, when enabled, is visually represented with red and white highlighting that can be adjusted with the gradient slider. The selection options allow you to change the selected entities in a predictable manner, such as by growing or shrinking one face in every direction. And the numerical inputs simply give you precise control over every type of manipulation. I'll click OK, and you can see the handle now has a much more organic shape that seems comfortable to hold.